Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1549. I'm your host, Mike Matthews, broadcasting from Café Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. Today, we hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley. Good night, I'm going home. No, wait, I'm staying here at Café Anyway early in the morning, 5:29. The lunar eclipse is going on right now. I looked up and I saw this
Mike's Daily Podcast
under a blood red moon, and I sang a U2 song, and it was all like obscured.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It looked like the lunar eclipse was going on the moon. Kind of looked like Trump with that toupee he has on, where it's that weird light hair that kind of fops over the reddish skin of our president, who had a speech in Washington yesterday, apparently.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Washington, D.C., and all of his Trump supporters called in to all the radio stations and said,
Mike's
he said,
Daily
the best speech
Podcast
ever. I mean, it was good. And they talked, and they were like praising him because he's trumpet. Well, that's what happened, and I slept through it. It was great. I went to bed around 8. I think his speech was at 6 o'clock my time, but screw that. I watched, instead, on YouTube, videos about Disney rides. That's my thing now. I watched a thing about the Haunted Mansion. I can't play it because I got dinged the other day by playing Ellie Goulding's Lights on my show. And they dinged me, stupid YouTube. Look who walked in. Hello, my commercial, it's Madame Rootabega. I am good friends with Madame Leona of the Haunted Mansion. Ooh. Oh, that's cool. That's the woman in the, what do you call it? The crystal ball. Yes, my commercial, the what's come out? That's interesting. That's right. Yes, look. Scary. Look who else walked in.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, in Europe, the Haunted Mansion is called Phantom Manor.
Wow, I'm amazed you know that. You go to France a lot?
And here's today's podcast picture.
Yeah, me and Macron are good friends there.
Yeah, we go and see him and have a baguette. Do you know that? Oh, that's good. Baguettes are good. Well, hey, I have to act like I'm working right now. Okay. So the podcast picture today is of my dog, Basil the Boxer, as he is running alongside a seagull. This is over at the beach somewhere in, I can't say exactly. Oh, well, I'll tell you. Okay. Hey, this is a wonderful... Oh, and the seagull's flying next to him, and Basil was just kicking butt. He and I, yesterday, we were walking on 10 Hills Trail in Podcastro Valley, and I ran into a bunch of lovely women, as sometimes I am happy to...
Really?
Yeah, I'm sometimes lucky to do. I'll run into hot women. And
Wow.
I met some ladies around my age. They were walking too fast. I couldn't keep up with them. And then there was another girl who was walking in her Doc Martens, probably in her 20s, wearing a jean jacket and in a nice sort of, summery hippie dress underneath it. And she had on her cute glasses and her pierced nose. And she's walking along, and she's like, "You've got a really nice dog." And I said, "Thank you." And we talked for a while, and she apparently had was part of a, what do you call it? A Buddhist Dharma meditation group that apparently is really big in Southern California and in San Francisco. But she's 20-something, and she's living with an old lady, and she's, renting there, and she's also a preschool teacher. And I found out all this, my friend, all of this, because she was fascinating, and she talked. And we were walking, And she told me she had never been to this park before. I told her all about the East Bay Regional Park District, and which I love, even though I hate because they once gave me a stupid ticket because Basil the Boxer was off leash in this area that apparently he wasn't, even though it was suspect. They should have told me more specifically. But I will go into that in a previous podcast you can listen to maybe I think 3 or 4 years ago. I ranted all about it. But she was very interesting, and she was also... I don't know, though. She probably won't be here in the Bay Area much longer. The way she was talking, she seemed very enamored with Southern California. She was from Chicago originally, so... Chicagoans come here, and they're all happy with the sunshine, and they're happy to get out of the cold. But then this is so expensive. Oh, this is too much. And what's this weird attitude some people have? You got to get over the attitude, everybody. Just get over the attitude and enjoy. If you like where you live, stay. That's my point. But we have a picky eater at work. I want to let you know this picky eater will not reheat anything. We had that lunch I told you a little recently, not too long ago. Had to do with tacos. And we had some food left over from that, and we were all thinking, she's not going to eat it. She's totally reheated it. And how come you told us you don't reheat or eat any leftovers? She goes, oh, no. If it's food in a sauce, I don't mind. But if it's chicken, I won't reheat it. And I said, we collectively in the room said, what? It made no sense. But apparently, say what? It makes sense to her, and that's all that matters. The moon is still in a state of eclipse right now, kind of looking like my head as I walk into the light. You have to imagine my bald, shiny head. When there's no light on it, I kind of look like an eclipse, if there's just a little bit of light. My point being, I got an email, if I want to use my articles correctly. In your fine article. Do you know that?
A fine article.
You silly great fat article.
I decided to play that little thing for you. A friend of mine wrote me and said, how goes the California view of politics in the swamp? That was the question posed to me. Okay, here's what California thinks. We are in a tax swamp here. We are in a traffic swamp here. We don't like it, but the only thing we don't like even more is the fake revisionist historian Presidente that we have, who apparently takes credit for all of Obama's achievements, and then lambasts the former president that we used to have, to which the former president says,
that's not even funny. Washington's made things worse.
And yeah, but that's what we think about that. So go on, person in other state that apparently has low taxes and apparently does not have the nice warm weather that we're having right now. Because you get those cold fronts on the East Coast. Ha! And we get these nice warm fronts. Like yesterday felt like a spring day. It was so lovely. It was so nice. Oh, I meant to play this. When the houses creak and the wallpaper that you see in the Haunted Mansion was designed by this guy in the 60s who he apparently had designed the Haunted Mansion. Walt Disney would say to his Imagineers, or whatever he called them back then. I don't think they were called Imagineers back then. But he would say, hey, give me a bunch of ideas for what we want to do with this haunted house. They didn't really have a name for it yet. And this one guy had been to Europe, and he had come up with all these cool things he had seen from artists over there, and kind of this Art Deco-y, scary type look. And he was the last person to present his ideas to Disney in this one day of idea presentations. And Disney was, this is weird. Okay, I'm out of here. He was like mad because he didn't really like any of the ideas he saw. And then the next morning, he's in the office of this one artist who had been to Europe, and he's sitting at his desk, and Disney says to him, "You jerk," or he used a stronger language than that, and said, "Your ideas stuck in my head all night. I couldn't get to sleep. I think we're going to go with your ideas. We're going to come up with this Museum of the Weird." And then he left. And apparently he was wearing the same clothes from the day before, so he didn't get any sleep, Disney. Which may have contributed to his bad health, and he eventually died. He was gone quick. I think he had a heart attack or something. All the Imagineers that had worked with him at the time were just so... He was torn from them. Disney was torn from them so quickly. It's very difficult for them to discuss it, apparently. Hey, I just realized that our radio celebrity, who it's his last day at the studios, he's not here yet, and he should be, because his show starts in 20 minutes. So they were all saddened by that, of course, and it was when Disney died much too early. He left this big gaping hole, which was the Haunted Mansion still needed to be completed. So a guy named Mark Davis stepped in, who had done some of the funny scenes in the Pirates of the Caribbean, and he had done some of the funny... He had designed the characters in America Sings, and my point being that the Haunted Mansion was not fully realized when Disney died. It had to be... There was still a lot of work that had to be done. Even though they had already built the house that is in Anaheim, that the Haunted Mansion housed, which is interesting, an interesting point they brought up in this thing I watched on YouTube, that as haunted houses go, it wasn't a scary, broken down, dilapidated house. It's very nice on the outside. Disney said, Disneyland will take care of how nice it looks on the outside. On the inside will be all scary and cobwebs and creaky doors and all that. And what was the last thing I wanted to say about Disney was that, so it was supposed to be a Museum of the Weird, and they make some reference to that on the ride, like we have collections of scary ghosts, and they mention collections very loosely, but it became a residence of the 999 ghosts from around the world that wanted to reside at the Haunted Mansion. And Thurl Ravenscroft, the one who sings, he sings, "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch." You see him on one of the headstones that sing to you, the one with the mustache. That's Thurl Ravenscroft, who is the one who sang The Grinch. He was the voice of Tony the Tiger. And his voice is heard on all the rides, or a lot of the rides at Disneyland, as is Paul Frees, who is the ghost host. Paul Frees, who passed away years and years ago. He is on the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean. He was on the Trip Through Inner Space. And I got on a little sidetrack there. But back to the Trump. He called for unity, but pushed the GOP agenda in the State of the Union speech. He claimed yesterday that he had ushered in an ambulant new American moment and issued a summons for the unity we need to deliver for the people we were elected to serve. Meanwhile, the Pentagon restricts data on Taliban presence in Afghan for the first time. The Defense Department has told its Inspector General overseeing the reconstruction. Oh, there's that person. And I might have to go down and get them. Hold that thought.
Later that day.
Okay. I just let in the celebrity radio person who's a pretty well-known conservative talk show host. And he and Michael Medved did a thing last night. Apparently, they discussed Trump. And Michael Medved has always been very cynical about Trump, even though he's a conservative talk show host. And this guy, he has always been pro-Trump. So he was just telling me about it on the elevator ride up. But he didn't even go and look at the beautiful reddish moon that's being eclipsed at the moment. And that's our problem in today's world, is we spend too much time worrying about politics, running to and fro, worrying about this stupid Taliban. Oh, gosh. I could go on, but that's a big... I was listening to something on the Daily from the New York Times about how in Kabul It is just crazy there. The Taliban is making all these strikes because Trump is doing a very hard stand against Pakistan, and so there's all these repercussions going on, and it's just crazy in Afghanistan at the moment. At the moment, it's been for how long? As long as I've been alive. But the super blue blood moon is going on right now. It's very red, as I mentioned earlier, with just this like kind of a haze of the Earth's shadow over it at this exact moment here at 5:48. Ex-Mississippi governor arrested with a gun at the airport. Haley Barbour. He's going to pay a fine after being arrested with a loaded handgun in his briefcase as he went through an airport security checkpoint. Oops, my bad. I'm Haley Barbour.
And then, Congress, the First Lady.
Let's see if I can.
All Americans. We have faced challenges we expected and others we could never have imagined. We have shared in the heights of victory and the pains of hardship. We have endured floods and fires and storms. But through it all, we have seen the beauty of America's soul and the steel in America's spine.
All right. The steel in America's spine. Does that mean we've all had reconstructive spine surgery? Is that what we have because our backs are, because we're so fat and our backs are weak and we've had to put in a metal rod in our, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much. Black holes are notoriously messy eaters, blasting the scraps of shredded stars as enormous belches of gas and dust. Now, for the first time, astronomers have spotted the same black hole, letting out a double burp. Oh, that's from the Smithsonian website. And I guess that's pretty much it. As we go outside of Café Anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. The Glee actor died. You heard about? I don't want to go on. It's depressing. And then there's a David Bowditch will replace Andrew McCabe as the FBI deputy director. And he served under James Comey and Andrew McCabe, and now he is going to be the associate deputy director. He's replacing McCabe as acting deputy director. An FBI spokesperson wasn't available for comment. And McCabe stepped down as deputy director amid allegations of bias and misconduct regarding the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email practices while Secretary of State. An FBI spokesperson declined to confirm the report. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, said that she expected the FBI to release a statement. And next show, it's going to be Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere, the engineer. Oh, I had a tiny little tick on me on Monday. I felt like this sharp, like tiny little, like as if like a thorn had pierced my skin on my belly. And then I looked and there was a little tick, and I pulled him out. I should have used tweezers, but I have kind of these long nails, like I play guitar, but I don't. And I pulled it out, and let me look at it right now. Yeah, there's not even a red spot. It's completely fine. Somebody I work with apparently got Lyme disease from a tick, so that person talks about it constantly, and I thought, oh no, I might have, but I think I'm okay. We'll knock on wood. Finally, I did have, in that same belly region, about 9 years ago when I lived in Alabama, I had 2 ticks on me. Not at the same time, but while I lived in Alabama, I had ticks. So, I want to take you out in the moonlight, and I want to search you for ticks. Thank you, Brad Paisley, for that song. And thank you for listening to the show. Hopefully you got to see a little bit of the moon. If you go, I think just about every website has a picture of the blood red moon being covered up, which apparently Mike Gallagher didn't pay any attention to look up in the sky and see as he was coming to work today. Oh well.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!